This video will take you on a journey to Luchtpark, elaborating on our case study essay. Luchtpark is a public park on top of an old railway station in Rotterdam. After the station fell out of service in 2010, the architectural firm ZUS designed this park in collaboration with local entrepreneurs and residents. This is the park we can see nowadays, including a communal garden. There are some interesting details and practices that we have researched in our essay regarding social cohesion, aesthetics, accessibility and safety. This video will show you those by taking a virtual walk through the park. We start at the south side of the park on the Luchtsingel.
The Luchtsingel is an elevated pedestrian path that provides a connection between the public spaces above and under the dividing train track through Rotterdam. It's easily recognizable by its bright yellow color, and besides taking nice Instagram pictures, people also use it to get somewhere without having to deal with the hustle and bustle of all the traffic at ground level. This pedestrian traffic system connects parks like Park Pompenburg, Tuin op het Dak and of course Luchtpark to the existing structure of the city. The height of the park does cause some challenges for accessibility. First of all, it's less visible than parks that are on ground level. Passersby don't have sight of what's up there and therefore don't know whether they can make use of the park. And secondly, unless you're already walking on the Luchtsingel, you will have to take the stairs to enter the park, in contrast to parks that are on ground level, in which case you can enter without even feeling the transition from the street to the park. Both these characteristics would result in a relatively less used park. As we get closer to the entrance, another aspect that impacts the accessibility becomes visible: the gates that users walk through to enter the park.
This is the south entrance of the park. As you may notice, this entrance, consisting of a high chain link fence and relatively small gate, doesn't give the inviting impression you might expect at a public park. These gates open at 10 AM and close at sunset every day. Multiple users seem to think that this must be to prevent vandalism from occurring. Vandalism is expected to occur mostly at night, and that would be why the park is closed then, and consequently why it has this less inviting atmosphere at the entrance. The rest of this park will provide more insight in this theme of safety and vandalism. At this old train platform in the park, two different details linked to the theme of vandalism can be noticed: security cameras to prevent it from taking place, and graffiti as an act of vandalism. An interesting discovery is the selective absence of vandalism in some parts of the park. The half-approved train platform, appearing as the most secured part, has undergone multiple acts of vandalism like works of graffiti, while the more vulnerable garden in the north seems not to be a victim of these events. The research points out that this selective vandalism may be a result of high amounts of social control, a quick replace and repair culture among the volunteers, and the extent to which people identify with this garden. The personal, communal atmosphere in the park, caused by the participation of local citizens, may play an important role in the decrease of criminal activities and therefore improve safety.
The open field besides the train station is the biggest area of the park and provides an overview over the clearly separated different elements and areas of the park. The park can be divided into three sections: the old station, the square, where we are right now, and the garden. This square, framed by the blue rubber dike, is used by visitors for diverse outdoor activities such as picnics or sunbathing. It's also the location for events such as festivals for outdoor film screenings. At this moment it's very quiet, but these events attract lots of visitors to the area. Let's zoom in on the blue rubber dike to see what role it plays in the park. A few visitors are enjoying the sun. The school next to the garden generates quite a lot of visitors for the park. Most of the present visitors during observations stated that they come here during their breaks from school or office hours. One of the volunteers confirmed that this happens a lot.
Kijk, sowieso hebben we hier een school zitten, Schaafs Lyceum Rotterdam. Dus heel veel scholieren komen hier pauzeren in de pauze. Ja. En je hebt ook wel wat bedrijven hier omheen, dus die mensen komen ook wel hier dan bijvoorbeeld om te lunchen. En in principe, ik loop zelf ook altijd door deze tuin als ik bijvoorbeeld naar de markt ga. Dan ga ik via de tuin, omdat ik vind het leuker om te lopen. Dus voor heel veel van dat soort mensen heb je denk ik ook wel gewoon passanten, om het zo maar te noemen.
Ja.
Behind the blue rubber dike you can see some volunteers working in the garden. Most of the visitors stated that they don't want to bother the volunteers in their work, which is why they decide to stay at the other side of the park. Our observations have shown that the blue rubber dike is mainly used by visitors, that the old train station has a lack of users, and that the garden is mainly occupied by volunteers. The clear spatial separation between the garden area and the other spaces possibly creates a small social barrier in the park. A less emphasized separation between the area where participation by volunteers takes place and the area where mostly visitors come could potentially weaken the division between these groups of users. A more diverse mix between functions can provide ground for more accidental meetings between users and thus stimulate interaction between the multiple actors. Let's focus on the garden itself.
The garden has a certain overgrown look to it, which seems to be a typical aspect of many communal gardens. In this case, there doesn't seem to be any structure to the garden, but a certain underlying structure can be found by looking more carefully. The garden is completely designed to look like this. Thus, the office that designed this space in collaboration with local residents made a landscape on the top of Hofbogen with fruit trees and vegetable gardens. The leftover spaces were filled with indigenous plants to make the garden look more like the polder landscape that the Hofbogen was originally built on. This combination of plants provides the look of the garden that users see nowadays. This research clarified that this natural appearance is a common concern of municipalities and city council officials, while at the same time most users prefer this type of garden over the manicured looks of the city parks. A bit deeper in the garden, volunteers can be found at the picnic tables. Most interviewed volunteers get lots of compliments on their work, confirming the statement that users like the look of this park. The volunteers themselves are also very fond of the garden. Lenka, a woman who also works at the garden as a guide for volunteers, clarified what the garden means.
Dan lopen de mensen, er zit hier ergens een architectenbureau en die gasten die lopen dan door de tuin heen en die komen dan gewoon vragen stellen van wat zijn jullie aan het doen en dan leg ik met heel veel passie dan uit wat we aan het doen zijn. En die mensen raken dan ook helemaal geïnspireerd. Dus het is niet alleen vrijwilligers, er is heel veel belangstelling voor de tuin en echt van jong naar oud. Daarom zeg ik, de tuin brengt veel meer dan alleen vruchten. De tuin brengt ook dat je zeg maar zo met een clubje mensen bij elkaar komt. Allemaal hele totaal verschillende mensen die normaal gesproken elkaar op straat gewoon langs elkaar heen lopen. En nu komen we hier dan bij elkaar en dan hebben we het over zelfredzaamheid en hoe je zelfvoorzienend moet zijn.
Two girls clarified how they made new friends because of the work in the garden.
It's really nice because like as students you mostly just hang out with other students because you don't really get to know like locals or Dutch people that much, so it's actually nice because it's a really mixed group and like I would not talk to them or get to know them at all, so it's actually nice, but not outside of the project.
Okay, that's cool.
Actually it's funny because like the oldest people are like I don't know 70, so it's a really nice mixture.
And they even inspired others by telling about the voluntary work in the gardens.
Like when we tell other students about it or roommates or whatsoever, they're always really interested and actually some thought about trying it out as well, even though they don't have to. So I think like they really like the idea of it and would participate as well.
These insights show that the purpose of participation in public space goes far beyond good maintenance and appearance of the place only. It's also a matter of increasing social cohesion and stimulating interaction between users.
When following the path through the garden, the other side of the park is visible. This side is closed off with the same kind of gate as the other side, but you immediately walk into a flight of stairs when you exit the garden here. It's striking that, although it's steel and not from wood, these stairs are the same kind of yellow as the Luchtsingel. This indicates that this and the park as well are part of Luchtsingel. Several people pass by during observations, without making any use of the park, which indicates that the park functions as a part of the pedestrian traffic system of the Luchtsingel. This recognizable bright yellow color is important because when taking a look from the bottom of the stairs to the park, the staircase is the only notable element that would trigger the visitor to go up to the park. From down here it doesn't look too inviting. Multiple interviewees supported this by saying that they got to know the Luchtpark because they had seen it from the upper floors of a surrounding building or read about it in an article, and not because it's very visible from the ground floor. In the end, all of them have found the park and like it. So although the park is not on ground level, which, as mentioned in the beginning, restrains people from getting up there, the height of the park does not seem to be an unconquerable barrier for its users. The fact that this park is part of a bigger pedestrian traffic system stimulates its use for passers-by, especially since the park is more attractive to walk through compared to the sidewalks next to busy roads. This way, the height of the park might actually be advantageous to its use. Integrating a park like Luchtpark into a traffic system and providing this more attractive alternative to the normal pedestrian route seems to outweigh the physical height barrier, which in turn also makes the park more lively and therefore also lowers the mental barrier for entering the park.
In this video we introduced you to Luchtpark and at the same time told you about the challenges and opportunities of this type of park. It shows us that participation in a public space provides quite some chances for exploration in different fields. It could stimulate interaction and therefore improve social cohesion to make a park more lively and lower the mental barrier to enter it. Furthermore, including different stakeholders in the design process increases the feeling of being represented in the public space. But also, enforcing social control by making the public space less anonymous will raise the feeling of responsibility. All these participation ingredients and their possible positive outcomes could help reconsider the public space as we know it and what it could be.